I'm very pleased to welcome you here today for this very happy and special occasion, celebrating Armenian studies at the Catholic University of America. Today we are celebrating the fourth lecture in the Grace and Paul Shahinian Armenian Christian Art and Culture lecture series, generally supported by Dean Shahinian in memory of his parents. Dr. Paul Shahinian was the son of Abraham and Mariam Shahinian, both survivors of the Armenian genocide, who fled their homeland to find safety in America. Paul graduated from the Virginia Polytechnic Institute with a Bachelor of Science degree, from MIT with a Master of Science degree, and the University of Maryland with a PhD in metallurgy. He served in the Navy during World War II, taught physics at Virginia Tech, and worked as a scientist for over 3 decades. Dr. Shahinian worked at the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory, where he conducted state-of-the-art research on steel alloys and ceramics, published over 100 research papers nationally and internationally. Grace Jelalian Shahinian was the daughter of the Reverend Father Vahan and Yeretzkin Zaruhi Jelalian, also survivors of the Armenian genocide. She was the beloved wife of Dr. Paul Shahinian and devoted mother of Dean. She graduated from Columbia University and was an educator and an artist. She particularly enjoyed Armenian manuscript illuminations and annually sent cards with reproductions of work by Toros Roslin and others.
Your presence helps to reinforce the value of Armenian culture as a tone setter for beauty, understanding, and inspiration in the world. Tonight's talk on Armenian arts and culture occurs in the context of turbulent times.
So it's especially very symbolic to hold this event at the Catholic University of America as a significant part of the development of Armenian culture and arts was made possible by the Catholic Armenians, also by the Mekhitarist congregation, whose remarkable efforts helped to bring Armenian knowledge across culture, art, and many other disciplines from Armenia to the Europe and beyond.
On the first of my trips to the Met to see the exhibit Armenia, to which that punctuation mark was affixed, Armenia, I was puzzled by it. We associate the Metropolitan Museum with settled, even staid arrangement of objects from one historical culture or another, meant to inform the viewer more directly and depending upon the expertise of the curator. But there is nothing staid about an exclamation point. It announces the extraordinary, jolts the reader or the viewer from her settled expectations, and asks, indeed insists, that she look closely for the source of the extraordinary.
Եվ ընթերթալն նորա եղավ մերցենալ ի Դամասկոս, հանգարձագի շուրջս նովավ փայլադագյաց լույս հերգնից.
Hangarzagi, suddenly. And as he journeyed, says the English version, he came near Damascus, and suddenly there shone round about him a light from heaven. Acts 9:3. Illumination fell, and Paul could no longer see or fail to see as he had done before. The exclamation point expressed the illumination of the Armenia exhibit, which we owe to our speaker tonight, Helen Evans. Under her direction, the brilliance of Armenian art and culture was assembled in the Metropolitan, and those who walked the length of the exhibit, sometimes 3 times or 4 times, could never forget what was assembled there.
It's particularly wonderful to have Bishop Vendikian take part in my introduction because he took part in the introductions to the exhibition Armenia for the press. The Republic of Armenia and the churches of Armenia were remarkably generous in their loans for our exhibition. We could not have had as compelling an exhibition without the support of the Armenian nation. And when we borrowed the lands, it was from Echmiadzin itself. But in the 13th century, the Proscian family had built, as you can see on your left, a monastery that honored it at Gegard, the lands, which is not too far from Yerevan, the capital of Armenia, and a place particularly known for its hotchkars, two down at the lower left. The left, according to tradition, comes to Armenia with the Apostle Thaddeus. The mother church at Etchmiadzin, as it appears today, with more additions than it had in 1741. And to the right is the church of St. Ripsame, built in the 7th century, in many ways a martyrium to her death, and is cubic forms that step up from a base to up in quite geometric regulation to a large dome at the top, becomes standard for many churches over the centuries as Armenians will add to or expand their churches elsewhere. Christ child himself on the Armenian manuscript is wearing a red garment, which is his shroud wrapped around him that will be used at his death, and that is a motif that definitely be used in Italy.
Father Virtanis Kalajan 30 years ago, probably. Because at St. Mary's, one time I said, we should have lectures on Armenian culture. He said, fine, let's do it. And every month for 9 years, we had a lecture on some aspect of Armenian culture. And they drew a lot of people. But then at some point, I said it would be good, I thought, good to hear scholars without having to travel a long distance. So in Washington, because I'm in Washington. So I inquired, and Catholic University was receptive to putting on an annual lecture. We started an annual lecture. So we've done it for 5 years. I gave them an honorarium for the 5 years, and they have hosted the event. And the agreement was it would be on Armenian, the subject Armenian Christian art and culture. Someone who was a scholar and well known, but who was a good speaker.
So we've had tremendous success with the students. And you know, we have some students who continue studying Armenian here. So they have a natural interest that's born of their engagement with the language and culture. And they're extremely interested, both in Armenian culture itself and in the speakers who come to represent Armenian culture.